The battlefield was silent now. Only broken metal and smoke filled the air. A human soldier lay on the cold ground, his armor cracked, his chest bleeding, his breath shallow. He had fought with all his strength. But in the end, darkness took him. When he opened his eyes again, the world was different. The smell of fire and blood was gone. Instead, there was a soft hum. Lights glowed faintly above him. The walls curved like waves of silver glass. He was not on Earth, not on any battlefield. He knew he was inside some alien place. He tried to move, but pain shot through his chest. His vision blurred, and then he saw her. A small figure standing beside his bed. She was not human. Her skin pale like the inside of a pearl, her hair soft and white, her eyes large and glowing with a gentle blue light. She was tiny compared to him, but in her hands there was no fear, only calm. She reached out slowly, placing her hand on his chest. He flinched at first, but her touch was warm, almost soothing. Her fingers were long and delicate. They glowed faintly. And he felt the pain ease, as if her touch carried healing power. He looked at her in confusion, wondering why an alien would help a human, the tiny. Alien nurse said nothing. Her lips moved, whispering words in a tongue he did not understand, but her tone was soft, almost like a lullaby. Her other hand lifted a device. Light streamed from it, closing wounds on his skin, but her touch never left his chest. Steady, careful. As though she feared he would vanish if she let go, he stared at her, breathing slowly. Every moment a struggle between trust and fear. He had heard stories about aliens. Some said they hated humans. Some said they feared them. Yet this small nurse did not hate, did not fear. She touched him as if he mattered. As if his life was worth saving. The room around him was quiet, except for the hum of machines. Shadows moved across the curved walls as light flickered. But all he saw was her face leaning close, her eyes shining with something he could not name. Curiosity, perhaps, or maybe wonder. She pressed her palm against his chest, right over his heart. His heartbeat was strong now, echoing against her hand. She tilted her head, listening, her lips parting as if she was surprised. Her eyes widened, and she whispered again in that strange language, her voice trembling with awe. The soldier tried to speak, but his throat was dry. His voice cracked. He only managed to whisper, "Where am I?" he asked. She looked at him, and for the first time her lips shaped words he could almost understand. "Safe." "Here," she said slowly, her accent soft, broken, but filled with meaning. He watched her hands glow brighter, weaving threads of silver light across his wounds. He could feel his body knitting together, muscles repairing, blood flow calming. It was not human medicine. It was something far beyond. And yet it felt natural under her touch. Her small frame leaned close, her face inches away. She studied his chest, his heartbeat, as if every beat fascinated her. She touched him not like a doctor touches a patient, but like someone trying to understand a secret. He felt uneasy, not from pain, but from the way her eyes stayed fixed on him, as if she wanted to read his soul. He thought of home, of Earth, of the endless war, and he wondered if this tiny alien nurse had ever seen war. Her hands were too gentle, too careful. They did not belong on a battlefield. They belonged in peace. Yet here she was, saving the life of a soldier, a stranger, maybe even an enemy. The soldier tried to sit up, but she pressed lightly on his chest, her glowing hand firm yet gentle, pushing him back onto the bed. Her head shook, and she whispered one word, "Rest." Her voice almost pleading. He obeyed, not because he trusted her, but because his body had no strength to resist. He lay back, feeling the warmth of her hand still pressed against his chest. His heart beat faster, and he saw her eyes widen again. She whispered something he could not understand, but the way her voice shook made it feel like she was speaking of something forbidden. something dangerous. The silence between them grew heavy. The machines hummed, the lights flickered, and his heart continued to beat under her palm. He realized then that this was not just healing. She was curious about him, curious about humans. Her touch lingered not only for medicine, but for something deeper. He wanted to ask her why she cared, why she did not fear him, but his eyes. Closed as exhaustion pulled him down, the last thing he felt before slipping back into sleep was the warmth of her hand, steady on his chest, and the sound of her whispering softly as if speaking to his heart alone when the soldier opened his eyes again. The world around him was still quiet. He did not know how long he had slept, but the pain in his body was softer. Now, like a memory fading slowly, he turned his head and saw the tiny alien nurse sitting beside him, her eyes watching his chest rise and fall with every breath. Her hands glowed faintly, resting just above his skin. She was not touching him this time, but he could feel the warmth in the air. Like a fire burning without smoke, she moved her fingers slowly, weaving light that floated in the air. The light wrapped around his wounds like threads, pulling the skin together, sealing it smooth. The human stared in disbelief. He had seen medics before. Human medics with metal tools, needles, and machines that beeped endlessly. But this was different. It was alive. The healing flowed like water, soft and natural, as if her body itself was the medicine. He could not look away. He wondered if she was hurting herself by giving him this strange energy. The nurse glanced at him, and for a moment their eyes met. Her face turned pink. Her glowing fingers shook, then steadied again. She looked down quickly, as if ashamed of being caught staring. Her lips moved in her soft alien tongue. The words floated like a song. He could not understand them. But they were not cold. They were warm. He raised his hands slowly, heavy with weakness, and tried to touch the glowing threads of silver. She gasped and pulled her hand back. The light faded instantly. Her wide blue eyes locked on his. No. She whispered in broken human speech, her voice gentle but firm, too strong. For you, her meaning was clear. His body could not hold her energy if he touched it directly. He let his hand drop back to the bed, and she sighed, her shoulders relaxing. She returned her glowing hand above his chest. The threads of light appeared again, weaving carefully. Her focus returned. But now she seemed even more cautious, like someone guarding a fragile secret. Minutes passed, or maybe hours. He could not tell. All he knew was her healing felt like waves of warmth moving through his chest. Her fingers danced slowly. Her small frame leaned forward. Her hair fell over her face as she concentrated. She looked fragile, yet her hands carried the strength to keep him alive. The human soldier thought about the war again, about how people called aliens monsters, enemies, threats to humanity. Yet here was one teeny, soft, careful, risking herself to save him if she had wanted. She could have left him to die on the battlefield, but instead, she had brought him here, healed him, and stayed by his side. He noticed something strange then. Every time her glowing fingers brushed too close to his skin, she would pause, her breath catching, as if even she was surprised by the heat of his body. Her hand trembled, and her eyes studied his chest carefully. She whispered words to herself, but he could hear one sound repeated, the sound of heart. It was clear now. She was fascinated not only by his wounds, but by the rhythm of his heartbeat. She leaned closer, placing her palms softly over his chest again. His heart pounded faster at her touch. And she tilted her head, listening with wide eyes, fast. "Human heart," she whispered, her voice almost full of wonder. The soldier chuckled weakly, though it hurt his ribs. "That happens when someone puts glowing hands on me," he said softly. She blinked at him, not understanding fully, but she smiled faintly, her lips curling into something fragile and pure. It was the first time he had seen her smile. Her smile faded quickly, replaced by seriousness. She looked around the room, as if afraid someone might hear, then leaned close and whispered, not aloud. Her voice was quiet, secretive, not touch human. Her words stumbled, but her meaning was clear. She was breaking rules. Her people did not permit this. The soldier stared at her, surprised. Then why are you helping me? He asked, his voice rough. Her blue eyes flickered. And for a long moment she said nothing. Her glowing hands hovered over his chest, trembling. Finally, she whispered, curious. Heart strong. Different. Her voice was almost a confession. She pulled her hands back. The glowing light fading slowly. She placed them on her lap and looked down, her shoulders shaking slightly. She looked like she was caught between fear and desire, duty and curiosity. The human felt a strange pull in his chest. Not just from her healing, but from the way she looked so small and lost. Silence stretched between them, broken only by the hum of the machines. The soldier wanted to thank her, but the words felt heavy. Instead, he slowly raised his hand and placed it gently over hers. Her eyes snapped up to meet his, wide and shining. She froze, her breath caught. She whispered something in her own tongue, the meaning hidden, but the emotion clear. Her hand trembled under his. Glowing faintly again, she did not pull away. She let his larger hand rest over her small one. The warmth between them deepened. It was no longer about healing. It was something unspoken, something dangerous. The soldier lay back, his eyes heavy, his body still weak, but he no longer feared her touch. He trusted it, even if he did not understand why. He drifted into another sleep. The last thing he felt was her tiny glowing fingers curling lightly against his hand, her voice whispering softly like a prayer. The human soldier awoke to the soft sound of whispers. Not alarms, not screams, not the chaos of war, but gentle words spoken in a language he did not understand. He opened his eyes slowly, and once again, he saw her. The tiny alien nurse. She sat at the edge of his bed, her glowing fingers resting on her lap, her large blue eyes staring at him with quiet intensity. She was not healing him this time. She was only watching, her head tilted slightly, as if she was studying every small detail of his face. When she noticed his eyes open, she did not move away. She leaned forward instead, her voice trembling, human. Awake, she whispered in broken speech. The soldier nodded weakly, his chest rising with steady breaths. He looked at her carefully, noticing the way her hands trembled when she tried to keep them still. She was nervous, but not afraid. Her eyes held something else, curiosity so strong it could not be hidden. She touched the side of the bed with her fingers, tracing invisible lines before speaking again. Never healed human before, she admitted softly, her accent thick, but clear enough for him to understand. Your kind. Dangerous, wild, too strong. Her voice lowered further. Not allowed to touch. He raised an eyebrow, his lips curling faintly. Then why are you touching me now? He asked, his voice still rough but steady. Her cheeks flushed a faint color. Her glowing hands pulled back quickly, then returned to rest near his chest. Unable to resist, her eyes flickered to the door, to the shadows, as if she feared someone might hear her. She leaned closer, her whisper sharp and urgent. Because I want to know. Her words shook, but her gaze did not break. Want to know why your heart beats so fast? She pressed her palm lightly against his chest again, feeling the rhythm. Why warm? Why strong? The soldier inhaled sharply at her touch. Her hand was small, glowing, but steady now. His heartbeat quickened beneath her palm, and she tilted her head, listening like one listens to music. Her lips parted slightly, and she whispered. In awe, so alive, he could not help but chuckle weakly. It's called being human, he said softly. But the words made her blink in confusion. She repeated slowly, trying to form them correctly. Who? Man, her tongue stumbled on the sound, but her voice carried fascination. She moved her other hand carefully, brushing her fingers near his shoulder. Not healing, just touching. Her eyes widened at the warmth of his skin. Different, she murmured. Your body. Not like ours. She looked into his eyes, her gaze searching. Your eyes. Fire inside, the soldier shifted slightly, trying to sit up, but his strength failed. She immediately pushed him back down gently. Rest, she said, her broken, human speech firmer than before. He allowed it, but his mind raced. This nurse was not simply helping him, she was breaking rules. Risking herself just to satisfy a dangerous curiosity about humans. He asked quietly, what will happen? If they find out, her face stiffened, her glowing hands froze. And for a long moment she said nothing. Then she whispered, punished. The word was heavy, her voice trembling. Not. Allowed to be close, her eyes lowered, her hands shaking now. Humans. Forbidden, the soldier frowned, watching her carefully. Then why risk it? He asked again, his tone filled with genuine confusion. Her hands returned to his chest, pressing gently. Because? She whispered, you are not like the stories. She looked into his eyes, her expression open, raw. They say human cruel. Monster, destroyer. But your eyes. Not cruel, her voice softened. Your heart. Strong but gentle. The silence in the room was thick now, filled only with the hum of machines and the steady beat of his heart under her hand. She stared at him as if searching for answers. Written on his skin, he realized then that she did not only want to heal him, she wanted to understand him, every part of what made him human. Her hands glowed faintly again, not in healing this time, but in tremors of energy, like her body itself. Could not hide the emotions she felt. She whispered softly, almost to herself. Why warm when I touch? Why fast when I near? Why? Her voice broke off, her cheeks flushed again. The soldier could see her struggle. She wanted to ask more, but fear held her tongue. He reached up slowly, his weak hand brushing against hers. She gasped, her glowing fingers twitching at his touch. But she did not pull away. Her lips parted, trembling, and her blue eyes widened as she whispered, strange. But I like. Her confession was soft, almost lost in the hum of the machines. But he heard it. It struck him harder than any wound. This tiny alien nurse, forbidden to touch him, forbidden to even be near, had crossed the line because her heart could not resist. She leaned closer, her breath warm against his face, her voice trembling. Tell me, human, she whispered, why heart race when I close? She pressed her hand more firmly against his chest, feeling his heartbeat pounding faster. Is because of me? The soldier swallowed, staring at her wide glowing eyes. He wanted to answer, but the truth felt too heavy. Instead, he closed his eyes briefly, letting the sound of his heartbeat answer for him. The nurse drew back slightly, her lips trembling. She whispered in her own language then, words he could not understand. But her tone was clear, full of longing, full of forbidden curiosity. She sat in silence, her hands still pressed against his chest, as if she could not let go in that moment. Both of them knew this was no longer about healing, no longer about duty. Something else was growing between them, something dangerous, something powerful, something that her people would never forgive. The station was quiet. The night stretched long across the stars outside. The human soldier lay awake, his body stronger now, but his mind restless. He could hear the steady hum of the machines around him, yet all his focus stayed on the small figure sitting beside him, the tiny alien nurse. She had not left his side since the moment he arrived. Her glowing hands had mended his wounds. Her whispers had calmed his pain. But now, tonight, her eyes were different. They no longer carried Only duty or curiosity. They carried something heavier, something she seemed afraid to speak. She sat with her hands folded on her lap, her blue eyes shimmering in the dim light, her lips pressed together, trembling as if holding back words. She looked at him, then looked away, then back again, her breath quick, uneven, as if she were fighting herself. Finally, she moved, her hand lifting slowly, hesitating. Then pressing once more against his chest. She always touched him here, where his heart beat loud and strong. Her small palm rested over it, and she whispered, still strong, her voice quiet. Almost like she was talking to herself, the soldier nodded faintly. "Thanks to you," he said softly, his voice rough but steady. She shook her head, her eyes lowering. "Not only me," she whispered, "your heart wants to live." Her glowing fingers spread slightly, feeling the rhythm. The silence between them grew heavy until she broke it with words that shook him, her voice low, trembling but clear. "I want something," she said. The soldier raised an eyebrow, waiting, her blue eyes lifted to his face, filled with hesitation. "I want taste your lips." The soldier blinked, stunned. He thought he had misheard her. But her eyes did not waver. They glowed faintly. Reflecting both fear and desire, she pressed her hand harder against his chest, as if drawing courage from his heartbeat. "Why?" he asked, his voice quiet, careful. She looked down, her cheeks flushing faintly, her small fingers trembling. On his skin. "I do not know," she admitted. "I heal, I touch, I listen. But this, I wonder." She lifted her gaze, her voice shaking. "What human lips feel, what they taste, why they call to me." The soldier's heart raced, and she felt it. Her eyes widened, her breath caught. "See," she whispered. "Heart runs fast when I speak." She tilted her head slightly, her glowing hair falling over her shoulders. "Answer me. Is it wrong to want?" He could not answer right away. His mind spun. She was risking everything. Her people forbade even her touch, and yet she was asking something far more intimate. Something that could change both of them forever. He stared into her eyes, seeing not just curiosity, but loneliness, longing, and a fragile kind of hope. Her hand slipped from his chest to his arm, then back again. She leaned closer, her lips trembling, her voice barely above a whisper. "If you say no, I stop," she promised. "But if you say yes, I will know." Her words hung heavy in the air. The soldier closed his eyes for a moment, breathing deep. He remembered the nights of war, the endless killing, the way life could vanish in a second. He opened his eyes again and looked at her. This tiny nurse who had risked everything to save him, to understand him, to stay by his side. Her eyes searched his face, wide and vulnerable. Waiting, her breath quick. Her small glowing hands pressed firmly against his chest, feeling every beat. "Please," she whispered, the word trembling as if it cost her everything. "Let me taste, let me know." The soldier's lips parted, but no words came. Instead, he lifted his hand slowly, placing it over hers. Her small fingers tightened against his chest, trembling harder now. He pulled her hand gently up, guiding her closer. Her eyes widened, shining like starlight. Her breath shivered, their faces drew near. The air between them thick with unspoken fear and desire. She closed her eyes tightly, her lips parted slightly, waiting. The soldier's heart thundered under her hand, and she whispered one last time, almost like a prayer. "Human. Show me." The soldier hesitated only a moment longer, then leaned forward, their lips met softly, gently. Her body stiffened in shock, then trembled, her small frame shivering against him. Her lips warm, delicate, but filled with a strange energy that tingled against his skin. She gasped into the kiss, her glowing fingers clenching his chest. her body shaking as if her whole world had changed in that single touch. Her lips pressed again, curious, eager, trembling. She pulled back slightly. Her blue eyes wide, filled with wonder. Different. She whispered breathlessly. Warm. Alive. Real. Her hand remained on his chest, feeling his heart pounding wildly. Her lips still trembling from the contact. She looked at him with awe, as if he had given her the greatest secret in the galaxy. I never knew, she whispered. Her voice soft, breaking. But now? I cannot forget. The soldier stared at her, his own chest tight, his mind reeling. He knew this had crossed every line, broken every rule, but he also knew it was real. She had asked, he had answered. And now nothing between them would ever be the same. The room was still after the kiss. Only the hum of the machines filled the air. The tiny alien nurse sat frozen, her glowing fingers still pressed against his chest, her blue eyes wide with wonder. The soldier's heartbeat thundered beneath her hand, faster, stronger, as if it was answering for him. She pulled back slightly, her lips trembling, her voice breaking into whispers. I should not, she said, her words clumsy, but the emotion clear. Not allowed. Not safe. Her hand shook, but she did not let go. Her palm stayed pressed against his heart. The soldier stared at her, his mind torn. He knew what this meant. He had heard enough to understand her people would punish her, maybe even cast her out, yet she had asked, and he had answered. And now she looked at him not like a nurse, not like a healer, but like someone who had found something she had been searching for her entire life. He breathed deeply, forcing his tired body to sit up a little. The movement made her gasp, her small hands trying to push him back down. No, she whispered, still weak, but he caught her wrist gently, shaking his head. No, he said firmly. I have to choose. Her eyes widened, fear flashing in them. Choose. She repeated softly, the word unfamiliar on her tongue. He nodded. Yes, he whispered. I must choose whether to keep pretending this is only healing, or to admit it's more. His voice was low, rough, but steady. She stared at him, her lips parting, but no words came. Her glowing hands trembled harder now. If you say yes, she whispered slowly. Everything changed. Her voice shook. If they find, they punish. Me. The soldier's chest tightened at her words. She was not worried about herself, only she was worried about him too. Worried what? Her people might do to him if they knew she was right. The galaxy was not kind to humans. They were seen as dangerous, unpredictable, unwanted. And here was a nurse risking her life to be close to one. He thought of home, of Earth, of his fellow soldiers, of the endless war, and then he looked at her again, her tiny body trembling with fear, her glowing eyes begging him for an answer. He realized then that his choice was simple. Maybe dangerous, maybe foolish, but simple. He reached up, his weak hand brushing against her cheek. Her skin was soft, glowing faintly in the dim light. She froze at his touch. Her breath caught. Why? She whispered. Why choose danger? He gave her a faint smile, tired, but real. Because humanity means more than fighting, more than fear, more than war, he said softly. Humanity means kindness, trust, and sometimes taking risks for what feels right. Her lips trembled. Her glowing fingers curled tighter against his chest. You choose me, she whispered, almost like she did not believe it. His eyes held hers, and he nodded slowly. Yes, he said firmly. I choose you. For a long moment, neither moved. The air between them, heavy with unspoken words. Her eyes filled with tears that shimmered in the faint glow of her skin. She leaned closer, resting her forehead gently against his, her voice breaking. No human ever say this, she whispered. Always fear, always fight. But you. He closed his eyes, his hands still resting against her cheek. "I am not like the others," he whispered. "And you are not like the others." Her breath shook. She pulled back just enough to look at him, her lips trembling. "If you choose. No turning back," she warned, her voice weak. "You and I." Against rules, against all, he nodded again, his chest rising with slow strength. "Then so be it," he whispered. "I won't let you stand alone." Her glowing fingers tightened on his chest. Pressing against his heartbeat, she leaned closer, her lips brushing his softly again, not with curiosity this time, but with certainty, with need, with the beginning of something she had long feared and longed for. When she pulled away, her blue eyes burned with a strange light, not just wonder now, but resolve. "Then I stay," she whispered. "Stay with you. No matter." The soldier felt his chest ache, not from pain, but from the weight of her words. He had made his choice, and so had she. Their paths had crossed in a galaxy that wanted them apart. But in this quiet room, under the glow of alien lights, they had found something that made the risk worth it. The silence stretched again, but it was no longer empty. It was full of unspoken promises, full of danger, but also full of hope. The soldier closed his eyes slowly, exhaustion pulling him down. But this time he did not fear sleep. He knew she would still be there when he woke. Her hand still pressed against his chest, her heart beating with his. The soldier woke again to silence. The soft glow of the alien station surrounded him, and beside his bed, she was still there, the tiny alien nurse, her eyes heavy with sleeplessness, yet shining with a strange light. She had not left. She had not abandoned him. Her small hands rested in her lap, glowing faintly like dying embers when she noticed his eyes open. Her breath caught, her hands twitched, and slowly she reached for him. As if drawn by something beyond her control, she placed her palm once more against his chest. Feeling the rhythm of his heart, her lips parted in awe, still strong. She whispered softly, almost to herself. He looked at her, his voice rough but steady. "You stayed." She nodded quickly, her white hair falling around her face. "Stay," she said, her accent broken but her meaning clear. "I promised." The soldier stared at her, a strange warmth filling him, not just from her healing hands, but from her presence. She had risked everything already, and yet here she was, still at his side, still watching him like he mattered more than her fear. She leaned closer, her glowing fingers spreading against his chest, tracing the beat of his heart. Her blue eyes locked on his lips now, not his wounds, not his scars, but his lips. She whispered with trembling breath, "Last night, you gave me something," she said slowly, her voice unsteady. "Now, I cannot stop thinking." The soldier swallowed, understanding her meaning. "The kiss," he said softly. She nodded, her face flushing faintly. "Yes," she whispered, the word trembling, so warm, so alive. Her eyes glowed brighter, and her lips quivered. "I want again." His chest tightened. The request struck him harder than any wound. This was no longer curiosity alone, no longer forbidden wonder. This was need. Fragile but powerful, she pressed her hand harder against his chest, his heart pounding wildly under her touch. "I want." "First taste again," she whispered, her voice breaking. The soldier hesitated. He knew what it meant. One kiss could be excused as weakness, but another was choice, and choice meant no turning back. He looked into her eyes, searching, and saw no fear now, only desire, pure and trembling. Slowly, carefully, he lifted his hand to her cheek, her skin soft, glowing faintly. She leaned into his touch as if it were the most natural thing. Her lips parted slightly, her breath hot. Against his face, she whispered again, pleading this time, "Please." He closed the distance, their lips meeting once more. But this time, it was not soft and unsure. This time, it carried weight, carried meaning. Her body shivered against him. Her glowing fingers clenched his chest as if holding on to life itself. She gasped softly into the kiss, but pressed closer, eager, desperate. Her lips tasted strange, yet sweet, filled with energy that tingled against his skin. She trembled, her blue eyes shutting tight, her breath rushing. She pulled back just enough to whisper, "So warm," before kissing him again, as if afraid it would vanish. The soldier felt his own strength returning. Not from medicine, not from machines, but from her, from the fire of her lips. From the trembling courage in her small frame, his hand slid gently behind her neck. Pulling her closer, she moaned softly, the sound surprising even herself, and buried her face against his chest. Her glowing hair brushing his skin, she whispered against him. Her voice raw, "I was told humans." "Dangerous," she said shakily. "But you are different." She lifted her face, her lips brushing his softly once more. "You make me feel alive." The soldier closed his eyes, his chest aching from the weight of her words. She was breaking every rule, risking punishment worse than death. Just to feel this, just to share this moment with him. He kissed her again, slower now, softer, but no less real. Her trembling eased, replaced by steady warmth, when she finally pulled back. Her blue eyes shone with tears. She whispered, "Now I know," her voice breaking but sure, human lips. More than taste, she pressed her glowing hand tighter against his chest. "They connect here," she whispered, "to the heart." Her words struck him deep, because she was right. It was not just lips, it was everything, her touch, her courage, her choice, his choice, the bond forming where no one believed it could. She looked at him as though he was no longer only human, but something more, something worth every risk. Her lips trembled again, but she smiled faintly, fragile yet radiant. "First taste," she whispered, "but not last." The soldier lay back, exhausted but filled with warmth. Her small body leaned against him, her hands still glowing over his chest, her head resting gently near his shoulder. He knew then that their lives had changed. No matter what came next, no matter the danger, the choice was already made. The soldier no longer felt like a stranger. Lying in an enemy's medical bay, he felt something different now, something he could not explain. The tiny alien nurse was beside him still, her glowing hand resting over his heart as if guarding it, her head leaning lightly against his shoulder. He closed his eyes for a moment, listening to the hum of the machines, the faint song of the station, but most of all, the quiet sound of her breathing. She was calm, yet he knew she was not safe. She had broken every rule of her people by being this close to him, by touching him, by kissing him. When she finally raised her head, her blue eyes shimmered with both fear and determination. "If they know," she whispered, her accent soft but her meaning sharp, "they will punish me." Her voice shook, but her hand did not leave his chest. "Maybe take me away." The soldier clenched his jaw, his weakened body trying to rise, his arm lifting to hold her trembling hand. "Then I won't let them," he said quietly, but with all the strength his voice could carry. "I will not let you stand alone." Her lips parted in surprise, her glowing eyes wide. "But you are human," she said, her voice breaking. "My people fear humans. They think you are dangerous, wild, untamed." Her gaze softened, "But I see different." She pressed her hand harder against his chest. "You are strong, but gentle." He gave her a tired smile. "And your people," he said softly, "they see humans as monsters. Yet here you are, saving me, touching me, risking yourself." He shook his head. "If they cannot see the truth, then we will show them together." She blinked at his words. her breath trembling. Together, she whispered slowly, as if the word itself was new to her. She leaned closer, pressing her forehead against his, her voice barely a breath. "Then I stay with you. Even if the stars turn against us." He closed his eyes. Feeling the weight of her promise, it was not a small thing. It was everything. A bond forged not by duty, not by orders, but by choice. The door to the chamber hissed faintly then, and both of them froze. Footsteps echoed in the corridor outside, heavy, deliberate. The nurse's eyes widened in panic. Her glowing hand tightened against his chest. "They come," she whispered quickly. If they see the soldier reached for her trembling hand, holding it firmly despite his weakness. "No fear," he whispered, his voice steady. "If they see, let them see." But the footsteps faded, moving past the chamber. The door stayed closed. The silence returned. The nurse exhaled shakily, her small body trembling. So close, she whispered, tears in her eyes. So close to losing all, the soldier pulled her gently closer. Ignoring the pain in his chest, his hand resting against her back. "You will not lose me," he said softly. "Not now, not ever." She buried her face against him, her glowing hair brushing his skin, her voice muffled but clear. "I believe you," she whispered. "I feel your heart. It never lies." She pressed her hand firmly against his chest, her fingers glowing brighter now. "Your heart speaks louder than your words." The soldier felt warmth spread through him, not from medicine, but from her, from the bond they had created. Something fragile yet unbreakable. Something beyond rules, beyond fear. She lifted her face again, her blue eyes shining with tears. "Our bond. Forbidden here," she said slowly, "but out there." She pointed weakly toward the stars beyond the curved window. "No one can forbid." He followed her gaze, staring at the endless galaxy beyond, stars scattered like fire across black. For the first time in years, he did not see a battlefield. He saw possibility. He turned back to her, brushing a hand gently across her cheek. "Then we go," he whispered. "We leave this place when I am strong. And we find a home where no one can tell us no." Her lips parted in shock, then curved into the faintest smile. "Fragile but real. A home," she whispered, her voice shaking with hope. "With you? Yes." He whispered firmly. "With me." She kissed him again then. Not with curiosity, not with fear, but with certainty. Her lips soft and trembling, but sure, their hearts beating together. Her glowing hand pressed tightly against his chest, as if sealing their vow when they pulled apart. The silence around them felt different, no longer heavy with fear, but alive. With promise, she leaned her head against him once more, whispering softly, "Then we are one. Beyond stars, beyond rules, beyond fear." The soldier closed his eyes, holding her close. And for the first time in a long time, he believed. Believed that even in a galaxy filled with war and division, two hearts could find each other, could change everything. And so in the quiet of that alien station, under the hum of strange machines and the glow of forbidden light, a bond was born, fragile, forbidden, but stronger than steel, stronger than fear. A bond beyond stars.